How's everyone? Great to have you join us. For those I haven't met before, my name is Dinesh De Silva. I'm the founder and CEO of NetStripes. I know a lot of you have joined our webinars before. A lot of you are customers, but if you are new to the NetStripes community, a huge welcome. It's a community of business owners. We've grown over the last 10 years. We have about 15,000 in that community, and it's great to have you. There are a lot of resources. We have these webinars. There's lots of stuff on our website. We have events as well, so please join us for those. Today, we are going to discuss all things about domain names and hosting. This is a vastly neglected area by business owners. And suddenly it becomes so crucial only when we have issues and we run into issues. A lot of people think that nothing's going to happen to us. We are safe. It's and we neglect this stuff. We put it in the back burner because there's so many other things to look after, look into. And what happens is often people lose their domains. A domain is a hugely valuable business asset in this digital world. Your website is a hugely valuable asset for your brand. And there's much brand reputation that we lose if we lose a domain or a website. And if you lose your domain, you can lose your website as well. I'll run through some examples as we go today of businesses, small to mid-sized businesses that have lost everything, their domains, their hosting, their website in the last few weeks. Last week, I got a call from a business owner, absolutely desperate because they have been locked out of all their accesses to their servers. And nobody can operate. None of the employees can serve. Customer information is there. Their customers are waiting on delivery. Imagine that business owner. And I was speaking to him all weekend because I knew the mental state of that person was so bad. And it's like now a gun held to them, to their heads, that some of the costs that they have to incur to recover. And it wasn't cheap. So, as they say, a stitch in time saves 9. I've always said a stitch in time saves 1,000,009. And there are multiple examples of this. I'm going to share my screen now and get started. Thank you again for joining us. By the way, if you have any questions, go to the Q&A and ask those questions. And if you already had an issue with regard to your domain or with regard to hosting issues, share those with us. Go to the chat and talk about it, or come to the Q&A and ask those questions. Happy to discuss them. I may not see what's on the chat though. So let me share my screen and go to my next screen. Hands up when you can see my screen so that I know I won't start before you see it. Can everybody see it? Hands up. I'm not seeing any hand. Enough hands going up. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. So choosing web hosting, choosing a domain name is a crucial business decision. It's about how you build a brand. And a lot of people make big mistakes. And we've guided a lot of businesses as a result of choosing the right name, they've been able to build brands that were leading in their industry and that they have gone on to sell. So that's the power of getting the right brand and domain, of course. Let's keep moving. Most of you have met me. If you haven't met me, go to LinkedIn. By the way, Jen will be assisting me during this session. Jen is our customer engagement specialist. Jen is a conduit to all our technical folk, to myself, to any one of the strategists you want to meet, anybody who you want to meet about social media or websites or Google Ads, talk to Jen. She'll be assisting me. And Jen will share my link, the link to the LinkedIn as well. So connect with me. I'd love to put a face to your name. So this is what I'm going to cover. Have a quick squeeze of that. Those who don't know who we are, by the way, that's an old one. This is a new one. That's who we are. We position entrepreneurs to reach your business goals, but also why do we run a business? To achieve personal goals, right? Not just money, but there's so many things we want to achieve. And we help entrepreneurs by helping you build industry leading brands, because if you build a brand that looks like an industry leader and is an industry leader, that's how customers choose us. And we do this using a dynamic mix of online marketing, but before that, you've got to get your strategy right and your websites right, and actually you do your marketing advertising much later. But marketing covers that whole gamut of it that includes strategy. So the whole purpose of that is to help business owners like yourself to catch that digital wave, because those who catch the digital wave, you know that those who caught the digital wave make a killing. They don't just make a living. And how do you do that? And we believe small businesses have the resources, have the knowledge and the capability to do that. And you don't need a lot of resources, as a lot of people used to think. And this system has helped multiple business owners from nearly every industry to succeed and catch that digital wave. All right, let's get to a fun fact. The first domain was created in 1985. In fact, I didn't know this until I started researching this some time ago, and it was symbolics.com. By the way, one of the first websites we created when I was in my early entrepreneurial journey was for a bank. And it was done in around the 96. I can't exactly remember when. It was about 95, 96, maybe even 94 timeframes. And so 85 was even 10 years before that, which is amazing. Fun fact, again, there are 360 million registered domain names. I think it's 368 million to be exact, but we've rounded it off. So there are a lot of domain names. So how do you define yourself, and how do you get those right domain names? How do you get the right brand, your name, or it works well with SEO? And there is an art to this, okay? There's an art to this. And there are a few do's and there are a lot of don'ts, and we're going to discuss this. This is one of the huge issues we see with business owners. We neglect this really important aspect, and a lot of people get in trouble. I spoke about somebody who called me desperately. They were a fairly large company. They were not a large company, they were a mid-sized company, but larger than most companies that we deal with on a regular basis. A smaller company contacted us 2 weeks ago, where their hosting provider had told them, if you don't move your hosting from our servers, your website from our servers, within the next 14 days, you lose your website. And they didn't give any reason for that, and they didn't understand that. And with great difficulty, it's like having a gun to your head, they had to make that move. Again, so this is what happens when you don't know what you're doing at the beginning and you start a business and you choose the wrong provider. And by this time, their business had got fairly large, fairly successful, well known in their industry, and somebody recommended that they speak to us. So had a chat with them and we were able to find them a solution. So you never want to be in this situation where you have a gun to their head. And if you are not careful and you don't know the stuff that I'm going to teach you today, that's what's going to happen and more. Okay, so there are quite a few things I'm going to teach you today. So I hope you will really if you are doing something else, put these things aside and really take note, because this stuff is going to be crucial for your business moving forward. These are the digital assets, your property of this business that one day you can build and one day you can sell for a premium if you do it right. Each of this impact your brand, your SEO. SEO significantly gets impacted if you choose the wrong hosting provider, okay? If your website is slow, your security, definitely. And you see it on the screen when the Amazon website crashed for 30 minutes. It cost the company 66,000. This is like more than 10 years ago, right? But it crashed again. Amazon crashed again in 2022, if I'm not wrong. And that loss has not been quantified. We heard about the CrowdStrike issue as well. So these are things that we're going to take into account.
Cybersecurity.
By the way, I'm going to play this video. I hope you can hear it. If you can't hear it, put your hand up. I'm going to increase the volume as well. So I'll stop it and replay it. This is, by the way, about cybersecurity, because all this stuff is linked, right? Your domain, your hosting, and has a huge cybersecurity implication. So let's listen to this.
Cybersecurity concerns this morning with revelations a cybercrime is reported to the nation's digital spy agency every 6 minutes as hackers try to steal our data and cripple infrastructure. Fiona Whelan is following this story for us in Canberra. Fee, good morning.
Oops, sorry.
Morning. Who's behind this hack?
Well, Sarah, China has been singled out as a major culprit. So that's when it comes to attacks on Australian companies and critical infrastructure, while hackers linked to Russia have also been targeting Australians. So this is according to the nation's top cyber spy agency, the Australian Signals Directorate. It's released its annual threat report, revealing cybercrime reports have climbed by 23% in the past year to 94,000. Now, the most common types against individuals include identity fraud, online banking fraud, and online shopping fraud, while the most common problem for businesses is company emails being compromised. So this is where an email is used to trick someone into sending money or giving away company information. The average cost of cybercrime to affect a business has climbed by 14%. Now, this report covers the period that included two very high-profile attacks against Optus and Medibank, which affected millions of Australians and led to some having personal information posted online, really highlighting just how serious cyber attacks can be.
All right. So, look, this is something you've seen.
Cybersecurity.
Oops. Let's move on. Yeah. You've already, let me go back actually. I'm not going to play it. You've already seen what happened with Optus and all those guys. But one of the reasons I played this is that person who called me last week, who had this massive issue, had lots of employees, and their entire company was locked out. And it was a ransomware attack that happened through negligence. Okay, so it was unfortunately the fault of one or two people. But then when he called me and he was talking about this issue, and I said, look, you know whose fault it is, right? And he said, yeah, because it's those people. I said, no, it's not them. It's you. You are the CEO of this business. It is your personal responsibility, which you have not taken seriously. So I wasn't being mean in that situation because I didn't want any fingers pointed out, because it's because they didn't have these policies in place. Their risk management was not in place. Most of you, some of you have also attended our cybersecurity webinar, which we ran for the FBAA and for the NetStripes community. And I talk about having these risk management policies in place, where you have a risk management meeting where these cyber security issues, your domain name access, your security password protection, your hosting provider access, all this is taken care of. So it's very important that we look at this whole picture, because otherwise today we're looking at domains and hosting, and because of something else, we lose everything else. So just got to look at it in a holistic way. So let me now go and share this screen again. Yep. As I click this, yeah, all right, good. I thought the video was going to play, but it didn't. All right, so there are two really valuable blogs that our team has written. Again, this is written with lots of expertise behind it, lots of experience as well with small and mid-sized businesses. So go and have a read of it. Again, I'll give you another example of a smaller business recently, a very small business, no employees. He was again told, happened to be a man, was told by his hosting company, please move your hosting from our place and find a new place, because I'm going to lose everything. So this person who was doing the hosting for that company, obviously didn't have the capability to work with one of these dedicated hosting firms, and probably was using some dodgy area, and that person who was hosting lost all their servers. I don't know what happened. So what happened to our customer? Our customer lost all their email. So as a business, they can operate for 2 weeks. Imagine that, and lost their website, which was huge. So treat your domain and hosting decisions as valuable business property and not just mere technical necessities. So that's the real message here. And as I said, decisions that impact cybersecurity, whose job is it? It's, if you are the business owner, it's your job. If you are in charge of a particular area, you've got to take responsibility to protect the business owner. Everybody has to make it safe for each other. And that's what I told that other business owner who felt his team had let him down. I said, our job as leaders have to create a safe environment so that other people don't feel like losers. And unfortunately, his team, some of them were feeling like losers. So there are 30,000 websites hacked each day. So some of you know that. It's a huge number, as you can see. All right, so a domain name is your website's address on the internet. You know that it's like your digital storefront. It's the digital identity, okay? That is your digital identity on the web. So when you're choosing a domain, there are some best practices. It must be easy to spell. Don't make really hard to spell stuff that you have to spell out. When you're spelling it out over the telephone, if people are going to make mistakes, that's not the domain to take. So that's the first test. Try to spell it out to somebody over a telephone and see whether they'll get it. It must be short. We had customers who come to us with names like, there was a customer who came to us. The name sounded like Platinum Macquarie multiple leasing. No, lease, no. Oh, multiple finance, Platinum Macquarie multiple finance or multi-finance, something like that. Now, how is somebody going to type that name? One of our very early customers, their business name was Daniel Liu Lemessier Legal. And her domain was that. Daniel Liu Lemessier Legal. It was a hugely long name. So we said, you've got to change this name. And then she shortened it to DLLM, and that became their real brand, DLLM. And then that business, was a legal business, became so popular. There were lots of awards in Victoria. And a few years later, she sold that business because of the brand name and the branding that happened on the website as well. Not just the domain, but everything that goes with it. Brandable. So it needs to be brandable. Google is brandable. Google is not searchengine.com. Okay. Searchengine.com is generic. So NetStripes. So we had a really, by the way, NetStripes was not NetStripes before. We had to change a business name to NetStripes because we had a really crap domain that nobody could get right when we did that telephone test. It was embarrassing. I'm telling you by experience. So 10 years ago, we had to change it and rebrand it. We had done websites, banners, business cards, and I'm even too embarrassed to tell you what it was. And it must reflect your business's identity. In our case, we wanted business owners to earn their net stripes. So that's internet stripes, as you know. So that's how we came up with that name. And also the domain was available. And so these are important. What should you stay away from? Really long names, okay? But also generic names. We had a client who came to us. Their business had two generic names. Actually, it was two generic names. And we told them, do not use this name, because when people Google, you're going to be in trouble. They were in the educational sector, and you're going to be competing with Harvard, Sydney University, New South Wales Uni, UTS, for all these organizations, right? So he didn't listen. And started the business, and lo and behold, in about 2 months, we get an email complaining that his website is not appearing on the front page of Google when he types his business name. It wasn't 2 months, maybe a month after. And this is going to be an issue. So you've got to be really, really cognizant of that. Fortunately, when I checked the website a couple of months later, it was appearing. But if that is the only bad Google review NetStripes has about Google reviews, and it was so disappointing. What do you do? Actually, no, I won't do that. I was going to, yeah. So what are the types of domains? Okay, top level domains are .com, .org, .net. Okay, then you get those country level domains. Okay, like .au, .com.au, etc. .ca. And then of course you get the generic ones like biz, info, shop. Okay, there are others like .sid and things like that as well. Sydney. We have a client who has bespoke catering Sydney. It's actually a good name, domain name for SEO. Bespoke catering, Sydney is a good domain name. So, what are the considerations, right? Branding is important. Google is easy. When that gentleman came with those two generic names, I said, he had a really nice a really nice last name. I said, use your last name and then put those generic names after that, but don't make it long. And so these are considerations. We had another client, that client who had this, had a very, sorry, no, another client had a very long name. And he came to us and we looked at it and said, look, this is a very long name. Why don't you think about it? And his last name was Hill. So we said, what about Hule Finance? Hule Finance. So easy to say, you can brand it. And he became Hule Finance. And finance is what he does. So it aligns with his brand name and what he does as well. And there are SEO implications as well, right? Keywords that can help with SEO rankings. And these, a lot of people, we have a client who's called Australian Accountants, right? And then people use, their names, their suburb or town very powerfully. In this case, Bespoke Catering Sydney is valuable. And so reverse mortgages, New South Wales. Again, you've got to be careful when you use this. You've got to check SEO and whether there are a lot of searches for these. No point just having a local name if nobody searches that name. You could be in a really small suburb with a very small population, then that might not help you. But if you're in a larger town, like, if you said mortgage broker Sydney, and that could be valuable. Okay, so mortgage broking locksmith Melbourne, so these are powerful keywords. Okay, what are the other considerations and pitfalls in this case? Avoid hyphens. I don't like hyphens. People mistype them. It's hard to say over a telephone. Numbers are not the best, but people use them, but I don't quite recommend them. If you think about any of the really well-known businesses, you wouldn't see a hyphen there. So any of the really good brands, they don't. So it's a bit of a compromise sometimes, okay? Watch out for trademark issues. Make sure you don't have something like, one of those clients I mentioned, Platinum Macquarie Finance, okay? And there was a Platinum Finance company, and there's Macquarie Finance as well. Macquarie is a person's name, the name of a region, but still, if you use Macquarie in finance, you can get into trouble. So you just got to be very careful how you select your domain. We had a client who really had to go and change the entire business name because they picked one of these domains that had legal issues. It's a very costly exercise to do. Imagine having to change your name and brand many years after. Excuse me. All right, there are some really cool tools you can use. There's one called Name Mesh and Lean Domain Search. I might just go to one of them. By the way, this is one of those blogs I was telling you about. And the best way to get to our blogs at NetStripes, so if you go to netstripes.com, under resources, you'll get blogs. By the way, there are some really, really cool blogs. You should be regularly checking this. Google ad campaign types explained, right? And this is published last week. Should you boost post versus from Meta ads perspective, is it better to boost or just post ads, right? Or do ads? Boost and post or Meta ads, what are better, right? Then stop wasting time on money on Google ads, with the wrong keywords. And so arrest the drain on your cash flow with your digital expenses. This is a huge issue. Again, I'll be covering some of that today. So Again, so you'll find all that there. So let me go to name mesh. So this is name mesh, right? So if I go and type in Sydney Art Shop, it will tell me sydneyartshop.com is available if it's available. And if it's not available, it'll give me all the other options as well. So I can really go and choose based on what's available and etc. Okay, so that's really cool. You can give all the different names, and then this one here is lean domain search. I just put mortgage broker Sydney. It says, actually, I know we have a lot of mortgage broking client, mortgage broker Sydney. When I did it here, it said it was available. Mortgage broker Sydney is not available. Sydney.net is available. I thought it said it was available in the morning. Obviously, I was wrong. And here, mortgage broker Sydney.com, register now, but is it available or not? Right. So, but there are all these other options you can check. So some really good tools. So this is called, I'll go back to my presentation, name mesh and lean domain search. Okay, that's about, going and brainstorming, what type of brand should I get? When we were told very earlier on at NetStripe that we had to change our business name, we took it very seriously. And that was like 3 nights, entire weekend looking for domain names. We came up with a bunch and we put a few onto a panel. And we went and showed a lot of people, okay, who could be prospective customers and some people who knew better. And based on that, we picked NetStripes. It has helped us. It hasn't been bad. So the other aspects to look for is what's the reputation of the registrar? There are some dodgy registrars. You've got to be really careful. Even the good ones, they sell you stuff that you really don't need when you go to check out. So you've got to be very careful, okay? Also, when you go to sign up, you've got to opt for who is privacy protection. Okay, that's one of the options you can click on. This helps you to protect your personal information. Otherwise, people can go into a WHOIS website and get all your data, okay, all your name, or all your registration information. You don't want that public, so you've got to be careful. So that's something really important. People neglect doing, and then again, you have all the hackers get access to all your information. So very important. It's only a tick box, right? Be aware of auto renewal and expiry date. So with domains, right? So the biggest issue is they expire and people don't know. This has happened to the largest companies, including Google.com. Google lost momentarily because they didn't. Imagine that. Look at the cost of it. Look at the impact on the reputation, right? So that's one. The other is a lot of these domain registrars have automatic renewal, which is good, okay? But there are issues in there, and I'll touch on those as well. You might say, so who are the registrars I should go to? These are some of the Aussie registrars, webcentral.au, Net Registry and Melbourne IT, all of them are now under this Web Central banner. I think they've been bought out by Web Central, crazydomains.com.au. And all these guys, when you go to buy a domain, don't get sucked into buying hosting or anything else, right? Because you're going to buy a domain, just buy a domain. They'll try to sell you all types of stuff again, as I mentioned earlier. GoDaddy is the worst when it comes to that, because a lot of our customers have bought stuff that they just don't need. right? Some backup solutions that are not required. Backup is important, don't get me wrong, but some of the stuff they sell you is not important. But they make the case that it has to be bought. All right. If you get the right domain, you can clean up. Okay, so the owners of business.com cleaned up. And look at these, look at the selling price of these domains, okay? And even voice.com was sold in 2019 for 30 million. Imagine that, right? So people are still making money on domains. I knew a friend who sold a very valuable domain in the 1990s, and that changed his life. And I've tried to do the same, but with zero success. So I'm not encouraging any of you to do that. What to look for? Register your domain for at least 2 to 3 years. We try to register it for 5 years, really, so that we don't have to worry about accidental expiry. The brand damage is huge. One of the best known marketing companies called Marketer forgot to renew their domain and had a huge issue, right? And as you can see, hilarity ensued. People laugh at you, your brand gets laughed at. You lose all sense of credibility as well, but apart from everything else. I mean, Marketer is a famous company. So the traps to avoid are outdated billing information. So a lot of the time, you might have outdated credit card information, and that could, when it goes for auto renewal, it might not happen. You might be on holidays, okay? And what happens? That's when you lose the domain. So it happens because you're either sick or in hospital or you're on holidays and you haven't seen some notification. So although you have auto renewal, if you have outdated billing information, that is a problem. Make sure you provide an email and a telephone number that's working. A lot of the time their emails change, and as a result, their domain providers can't get in touch with them. So go and check. These are important things, okay? Store all details securely for access. Make sure you have all the access details. Right, so this is that. A lot of the time, business owners delegate ownership of your domains to their providers, the web designers, hosting providers, all types of people, personal assistants, virtual assistants. But these are your important assets, so you must take responsibility for them. So make sure you have all the access details, and they are regularly changed, okay, so that they don't get into the wrong hands. Okay, no auto renewal of domains. Sometimes a lot of people don't have that auto renewal feature. It is a pro and a con, because if you have auto renewal, sometimes the domain registrars charge you a higher price without telling you. So you've got to kind of see that as well. So make sure you understand that. When you're using a domain provider, make sure they have free domain parking. So if you bought a couple of domains and your website is still not ready and you're not paying for it, and you can park it free, right? I spoke about buying stuff that you don't need at the checkout, so just be careful of that. Also, people switch off reminder notices, and when you get renewal notices, my goodness, if you don't get that notification, we can be in trouble. So just got to be careful. So this is all part of risk management, and this is where I always recommend the customers to have a risk management process. Every business should have a weekly, if not a fortnightly, risk management meeting that has a checklist of things that you go and check. By the way, we practice what we preach. Every Friday, there's a risk management meeting. I don't attend it every Friday, but I do get minutes. I check on stuff regularly because it's my responsibility. So now we're going into hosting, okay, and website hosting essentials. As we can see on that image, there are different types of hosting. So the most commonest hosting for small businesses, SME type of businesses, are shared hosting because they're budget friendly, they're good for small sites. And it has limited resources, however. And if you're using shared hosting, you've got to pick the right hosting company, because by choosing the wrong company, this could impact your website a lot by having really poor quality servers that are slow and doesn't deliver a good user experience. And what happens is, if one of your clients, if you've done a Facebook ad or somebody finds you on a mobile device, they click on this, if it takes a long time to open, they've already left. They're not going to wait for you. Okay, people have very low attention span, so speed is important. The other aspect is, if your website is not fast enough, it hugely impacts SEO. Okay, so that's something that you need to be careful. The next type of hosting is called VPS hosting, or virtual private servers. And these servers are like your own server, but in a dedicated in a hosting company. Okay, so these are more powerful, and these are more required if you have a lot of you have e-commerce site with a lot of users, a lot of interactions, or you have some applications running on your website. Okay, typically you wouldn't need this, but if you have a lot of traffic, and that's the time you've got to consider, depending on the size of your business. Dedicated hosting means that you have your own servers in a large hosting environment, and this is best for large businesses. It's not for small to mid-sized businesses. Cloud hosting means you could be hosting at AWS in a cloud environment, and these are give me a second. They're scalable, they are flexible, and you pay as you go, but they are a bit more expensive to manage. So we have some clients on AWS type of hosting. We have some clients on VPS hosting, and we have clients on shared hosting. What we do is, we are not a hosting company, but we manage this hosting for these businesses, because if there is an issue, they wouldn't know how to handle it. And a lot of these hosting companies don't have good tech support, so you need to have your own expertise to do that, and that's what we do for them. Fun fact, I've already said, it's a real fact. Google ranks faster websites higher in their search results. So it's an absolute fact. Not quite a fun fact. I should have called it an absolute fact. So best practices for hosting is, you've got to host with a pure play hosting company, right? So you've got to know that these companies are just dedicated, and they do hosting, and that's their main business. It's not some website designer in a local area, and they got some servers and they're hosting, or they're hosting your website in the US. Recently, I said 2 weeks ago, we had this company who had a gun on their head. They had to move their hosting within a week or two. And we found out that their website was hosted in the US. And this was a fairly well-used website that need not a shared hosting environment, but a VPS type of environment, or the virtual private server environment. So it was unfortunate. So you've got to be careful, okay, on where you're hosting them and who you're hosting it with. Again, servers located in Australia, because it gives speed. Support as well is important. Select plans, if you have an issue, right, the time zone difference between us and the US is huge, right? So again, it's not difficult to host it in Australia. So you've got to do that. Select plans that matches your business needs and the growth plans. Again, if you're not sure how to do that, our teams can advise you. Reliability and uptime. aim for what they say 3 nines. Actually, when it comes to larger companies, we always talk about 5 nines. That's 99.999. Because 99.9 sometimes is not good enough, because if you take 365 days a year multiplied by 20 by 24 hours, that's hours, and then multiplied by 60, you get a huge number. And sometimes that 0.1% is many minutes, and that's not good enough for e-commerce companies, etc. But for smaller businesses, it doesn't matter. So we spoke about speed and performance of your hosting, fast loading times, improve user experience, and you can go to Google Page Speed and see the loading time of your website. So what you do is let me go and do that for you. So you go to Google Page Speed, right? And Page Insights. Go and type in your website, and you'll be able to see how good your website is performing from a speed perspective. And a lot of people don't do that stuff. Okay, so fast loading times are important, and it's crucial for SEO. So anybody doing a search engine optimization exercise without getting your website hygiene factors right should not do SEO. So these are really important stuff. So when you go and check Google Page Speed, and there's another one called GT Metrics, test your website on both. And on GT Metrics, if you're not getting A's, a classification of A for your mobile site and your desktop site, and you're doing SEO, you've got to be very careful. So talk to somebody on that. Security features, let's talk about that. Look for SSL certificates, regular backups, malware protection, DDoS protection. DDoS is distributed denial of service protection. These are these attacks that happen, and massive bot attacks on a website. And this is what hackers do to bring websites down. And they use these DDoS attacks not just for small businesses, but even for big businesses, for governments. And so that's why cybersecurity is such a big issue in every part of the world. And don't ever think it doesn't impact small businesses. I haven't spoken today about identity theft, but there was somebody who spoke to me about 3 months ago. They had lost, because of identity theft, they had lost their entire credit rating. They lost all their money. So there was a huge issue. People had taken loans in their name. So these are things that we have to be very careful. Customer support is crucial. And a lot of these web hosting companies, say if you do a shared hosting, it could be $200 a year for hosting, sometimes $150 a year for hosting. How can they provide you with customer service when you need a service? So it's impossible. Okay, so that's where you've got to be really careful. So before you go to choose your hosting providers, you can talk to NetStripes. These are some of the things you've got to check. Make sure there's phone support. You can call them and see whether they answer, not just for sales, but for tech support. They have chat support, and they can operate within the time zones that we operate in as well. Traps to avoid compromising on speed by going for the cheapest option. This is what happens. A lot of the time, people go with just anyone because you don't consider this important. And hosting is not even an expensive option, right? And people still try to save pennies, I'm telling you, and then completely screw themselves up. Linking your emails with hosting is not a good idea. So a lot of people buy hosting, and then what happens is their email is also linked to their web hosting. So if their website disappears, like that happened to a client, a very small business client, they lost their hosting, and with that, their email went. So don't link to that. The best practice here is go and get, be on the Gmail platform or the Microsoft Outlook platform, so that these are cloud-based email servers that protect your email, and it even provides you that security. Don't go and put it with your hosting, okay? Poor availability, we discussed that. Overlooking scalability. If you're a growing business, so you've got to, use the right type of hosting environment. Again, you may need some advice here. So again, I'll share a link where you can ask some of our team to help you with that if you have questions. Service is so important. Service is important because when something goes wrong, and with hosting and servers and technical stuff, things go wrong. So you've got to be ready and prepared. By the way, we have a lot of cybersecurity and tech support plans. These are not expensive. Go to our website and you'll find it under services, under support. You can check out. By the way, I'm not asking you to go and buy anything. It's just that if you need something, then you'll find at least who to contact. By the way, there are some really cool webinars coming that you should book into, register into them without forgetting. I'll get Jen to share. Jen will, I don't even have to say, Jen will share these links. 5 reasons why your digital marketing is not delivering results. This is a huge problem because a lot of business owners are not getting results, and there are reasons for that. And a lot of the time, the people who get results, they get their fundamentals right, and they're patient and they follow a process. But we are constantly talking to businesses who are not getting results because they don't follow a process. They don't do this best practice process, and it's often a stop-start thing. So they do something for a while because they're desperate to get a quick result, and they don't get it. So come over for this session. We will talk about the best practice, how to get results, and share case studies of businesses who are getting results. If you're doing Google Ads is not for everybody. You need to know that, okay? But we're going to talk about mastering Google Ads. We've done lots of blogs. If you go to our blog, there are quite a few blogs on Google Ads, and we're going to talk about how do you master it, okay? How do you get results? And how do you, what are the things you should not be doing? Hopefully, you found that I'm certain you'll find them useful. So make sure you don't postpone registering. Go there, put in your details and register now, and come for it as well. Don't just register and not come. They are free to attend. We do this as part of the service to all our customers, and you don't have to be a customer to attend. Again, how domain hosting work together. Your domain name points to your hosting server where your websites are stored, okay? And so I'm not going to go through this, right? This is technical stuff, and this is the stuff that as a business owner that I don't advise you to do. You need to leave this stuff to technical folk, okay? People who know better than any regular business person who's trying to do everything for themselves. Some things just have to be managed, and they're not expensive to get this stuff happening. Again, how domain and hosting work together. Your domain name points to your hosting server. That's all you need to remember, where all your website files, everything is there. Your backups are there. So that's what I reckon you need to know. Nothing else. You don't need to know this stuff. That's why I put it back on there to emphasize, okay? best practices, security, is important. I don't have to, I've said this so many times. Implement SSL certificates, keep your software updated. Huge issue, right? A lot of website owners do not keep the software of their websites updated. If you have a telephone, this telephone will continue to remind you to update your software. The laptop will continue to remind you to update. If you have a watch, it'll do the same. Your laptop, let me finish, will continue to remind you to update your software. It doesn't function otherwise, bro. Unfortunately, a lot of people who use websites do not update the software. As a result, hackers get through. So please remember to do that. Managing renewals, again, we spoke about that. Set up reminders for a domain and hosting renewals. You need this needs to be in a weekly risk management chart so that these are checked, the dates, etc. It's not somebody else's job either. Backup and recovery. Regularly back up your website. A lot of people who lose their websites, have hosting issues, do not have backups. And even big companies I spoke about recently, they don't have enough backups. For instance, if you have a backup that was taken 2 days ago, that could be corrupted. So you need to back up now to something that was taken a week ago. In case that is corrupted, we need to have another copy that was taken, say, 2 weeks ago and a month ago, so that we have this, multi-generation backup. So it's this father, son, grandfather, type of system that is there so that we can recover from data breaches. By the way, compliance is super important. If you are in a highly regulated industry, make sure your website is compliant to what you say on that website. Make sure you comply with the Privacy Act. You have a privacy policy on your website. Your terms and conditions are super, super clear. Another mistake people do is your access details are not secure, so make sure you keep them securely. And the way you share them is super valuable. All right. I'm going to finish up. Don't go. I'm going to finish up with this video, but I have a couple of things I want to discuss with you after that as well. Go to the Q&A and ask me any questions. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If they're just too technical for me, we have technical folk to answer them for you as well.
Analysts here collect intelligence about everything from scam emails to malicious software.
Another area that we're focusing at the moment is remote access Trojans. And remote access Trojans are tools that criminals use to gain access to your system.
The strategies cybercriminals use are sophisticated and constantly changing, so analysts here need to be one step ahead. This table is used to simulate how authorities might fight an urban cyber attack. The flashing lights and miniature traffic lights show how power grids and water services could be sabotaged. As malicious cyber activity increases in frequency and scale, the government says it plans to beef up Australia's defensive capabilities online. That plan includes $470 million for 500 new jobs at the Australian Signals Directorate, where the centre is located.
You might be part of a team that's doing data analytics. You might be part of a team that's pulling apart a piece of ransomware. You might be part of a team that's moving interstate to go and assist a hospital or a bank or some other form of industry restore its tech and get back up on its feet.
Yep. So there you go. The reason I wanted to play that video was all the work with hosting, domains, websites have a huge cybersecurity implication. We have an Australian Cybersecurity Centre now. There's the National Coordinator of Cybersecurity is a very senior military official. So you can imagine the importance of that. We have a minister, federal minister for cybersecurity. Claire Mills was a minister, and I think she was sidelined in the last cabinet reshuffle, and Tony Burke, who has including everything, including immigration under his portfolio. So cybersecurity has been uplifted to a really important minister. So it's super valuable, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, if you want to discuss any of this stuff, go and book a session with on that link shared by Jen, and one of our team will answer any of those questions you have. By the way, if you are building a website or you're thinking of starting a company, again, go and talk to one of our experts. And Sash Pereira, a lot of you may know him. He heads up and all the technical folk report to him, and he will personally meet you guys. He's a superstar expert, and he's the person I go to as well for all any questions I have in these areas. So we are not putting you to anyone. Sash himself will meet you if you need to talk to Sash. All right. By the way, if you are a mortgage broker, I read this where Peter White had told people, warn people of the cyber threats and asked people to get cyber security insurance. That may be something you may want to consider. By the way, I'm not selling insurance here, but I'm hoping that you will get some benefit by protecting yourself. We are told NetStripes is the most effective platform for small to mid-sized business to succeed online and to catch that digital wave. And that's why we do what we do. We want every one of your businesses to catch that digital wave. And our vision from the time we started, ladies and gentlemen, has been to empower 1 million businesses to accelerate your growth, your business growth through digital and innovation. And we know when you succeed, you create jobs, and you may create jobs across the world. And we believe millions of jobs can be created to benefit so many. And that is our purpose that keeps every one of our team motivated. And we've served with that purpose for the last 10 years. Thank you very much for joining.